All right, let's head on down there and we'll talk about their decks while they're mulliganing, and we'll talk about their potential mulligan decisions. We'll get the graphics updated for you in just a second as well. On your left, we're going to have Mike Wilson, and on your right, we're going to have Nicholas Roush. Nicholas Roush, I can see the opening hand. Looks like we are definitely Emerald. The other color, I'm not sure yet. I think it might be Sapphire. That'd be a nice little change of pace. Sapphire is the color combination that is essentially seeing the least play right now. The ramp effects are good, but they don't help you interact with your opponent's side of the table. And so oftentimes when you're ramping, you get caught without much on the table and you just get ran over.
Yeah, I played one of the early 1Ks and I played Sapphire Ruby. And I think it's actually really strong, except for the part where Ruby Amethyst is a big part of the format, and you just kind of get got there.
All right, looks like Nicholas Roush is playing Amber Steel, so we'll get that updated on the graphic in just a moment. We're going to lead off with a Captain Hook Forceful Duelist to challenge that Olaf. The 1-3 looking quite bad against the Captain Hook, honestly.
Yeah, Hook does a great job of controlling the board in the early game, and normally it's against like the 1/1s or whatever, and it eats a couple things. But against Olaf, it's a card you play because, like we talked about before, it technically gets to lore so often, but not in this case, as brooms get inked and played.
All right, Nicholas Roush, back your way. Let's see if you can play a 2-drop. I saw him ink a Prince Eric last turn, perhaps regretting it. Maybe he doesn't have a great play here. We'll see what he wants to do.
Has Simba and Aladdin as 2 drops, so might just want to develop a Simba here.
Yeah, I like Simba plus Quest. You can get punished by Rafiki pretty hard though, so it may be Simba, no bodyguard, and no Quest from the hook.
Yeah, I think I kind of like that the most if you're worried about Rafiki, because so far from Mike's side, you're not exactly sure what's going on, and it's pretty reasonable for it to be Amethyst Ruby control, right? Like Olaf just a tech early goon type card to challenge. So I like that Nicholas here didn't bodyguard and is just sort of, probably been passing the turn.
All right, just to update on the left-hand side, we are playing Sapphire Amethyst, an archetype that you don't see very often. It looks like we're playing a pretty heavy support game with 3 copies of Phyllisades, Trainer of Heroes, to go alongside things like Grammatala to give them a little extra juice, as well as these 4 copies of Olaf Friendly Snowman. So a nice little build from Mike Wilson. We'll see how it works here against Nicholas Roush's Amber Steel. Turn 3 here for Mike Wilson. We'll see what he got.
Yeah, my experience with Sapphire is that it's typically pretty good against these Amber Steel decks. And I'm interested to see how the Amethyst combines with that here. As we do have Mickey Mouse Detective, just getting you another little ink there and setting up for a big mid-game play a little bit early.
Yeah, looking to deploy a 5-drop ahead of schedule, maybe get 6 and 7 online a turn early as well. Nicholas Roush here, under the gun, needs to deploy some serious pressure here or else he's going to be in some trouble. But here is Ariel Singer. We're going to look at the top 4, looking for a song to play. Maybe going to be singing it next turn. Doesn't look like we found a song. Going to put 4 on the bottom, but can still sing A Whole New World or something similar next turn off of the musical or off the Singer 5 ability.
Yeah, and you're noticing there, if you keep seeing it, Nicholas, what they're doing is they're playing their ink face up for the start of their turn. That way, everyone remembers that, hey, we did ink this turn, and then flipping it over after we make a play. A nice little way to sort of, make sure we're not accidentally double inking. It looks like Nicholas is doing a little bit of math, trying to figure out, should I be questing or not here? My instinct is to say not to quest just yet. You kind of know what your opponent's up to, and you might need to be trading off for something bigger, and letting them sort of pick off your Simba here would be kind of disastrous.
Picking off seems hard. I like questing with just Simba. I don't like questing with the Forceful Duelist because if things go wrong, like if Rafiki comes down, right, then your Forceful Duelist gets eaten for free. But Rafiki is going to get to eat Simba for free no matter what. And I think you just need to quest as the aggro deck. But, Nicholas Roush, if his hand has Grab Your Sword, that could be a reason not to be questing because it allows you to clear your opponent's stuff and then you start questing.
Yeah, I typically agree. I wonder if Nicholas's deck is just more mid-rangey. We have cards like Rapunzel in hand. So maybe the hope is that we can, use Simba to pick something off or maybe like poke it a little bit and then draw 2 cards. Mike here in the tank trying to figure out exactly what to do. I'm also worried about Mickey Mouse Wayward Sorcerer just having the broom trade off with the Simba. Yeah, as it comes
Right.
here, and then you get a free ink, quote unquote, would have been a huge disastrous play. It's gonna be interesting to see how Nicholas wants to approach this turn.
Yeah, I mean, a good point there. Because anytime that you quest, you are opening yourself up. You're becoming prone essentially to things that your opponent's doing. But if you're Mike Wilson here, like you have to start being afraid of grab your sword eventually, right? The more cheap characters you put on the table, the more it just gets blown up.
Yeah, there is this really awkward line with grab your sword where, currently all our things live, but they don't live through that in Tink, and that is coming dangerously soon.
All right, here is a big pickup. This is a whole new world found off Ariel Singer, Spectacular Singers. So now Nicholas Roush can sing it if he wants, but has a heavy incentive to empty hand first. Mike Wilson is relatively low on resources, so giving him a big refresh could be a mistake.
Yeah, I actually played against your friend and fellow Lost Boy, Matt, at an event, and I was playing my Ruby Sapphire ramp deck, and I just put a bunch of mana into play, and he was playing Amber Sapphire, and just when he would play his whole, I'm sorry, Steel Sapphire, and when he would play his whole new worlds, they were just so much better for me. I imagine Mike's deck is going to do a similar thing where, if we get some Grandma Tollies, some more Detective Mickeys, this whole new world is going to be a huge problem.
All right, looks like we're going to ink a 3-cost Tinkerbell and pass the turn. Going to go back Mike Wilson's way. Draws for turn. Oh, it does have a couple cards still in hand. They were set off to the side. I think it's important to make sure that when you are not playing the game, if you want to set your hand down, you do need to set it off very far away from your inkwell. Because your hand is hidden information and face down, if you put it on top of your inkwell, oftentimes it is impossible to figure out which of those cards are supposed to be in your hand. It comes up quite a bit more often than you would think. All right,
Yep.
here is ink number 6 from Mike, and we're going to quest for one with the broom, uncaring if it dies in combat because it does just go back to hand. And now we're going to go back to Nicholas Roush.
Yeah, I wish we had done the broom play last turn, but now is the best time, since the last turn to have done it. So I like that Mike's reassessing and adjusting. No sunk cost fallacy here. As Nicholas is in a weird spot where, we can sing the whole new world, but you're only getting +2 cards, right? And Mike's getting +5 cards here. Now, Mike might like the cards in hand, but also, that Mike probably has a lot of bigger cards because we didn't do anything on 6 ink, which is a ton of ink. So Nicholas might be in a position here where you have to whole new world just to get rid of the big cards from Mike and hope it works out.
All right, we're going to go Eaton the Broom so that we can Rapunzel and draw 2 cards. This is a nice play from Nicholas Roush and keeps the velocity churning. Now I'm curious if Mike Wilson wants to quest with anything else. It might be Quest O'Clock.
Yeah, I like it now. Basically, a whole new world is not going to do what it normally does and allow us to play those kind of games. We need to start getting stuff down. Mike has strong cards in the deck. Probably something like a Hades might be in hand. I'd be thinking about. Maybe an Ursula. So we need to start getting some lore in. Obviously, it is a low lore game at the moment, but that's going to change very quickly here. Some bigger cards.
All right, inks another 3-cost Tinkerbell. Going to play another Hook Forceful Duelist, and we'll see if any other questing is happening.
I think you gotta quest with at least one aerial. Like, just get a little sum on the board. You got the bodyguard. You're not even gonna be singing that many songs this game.
All right,
Yeah.
got a quest with looks like both aerials. I think this is a much safer quest than the Hook Forceful Duelist, and oh, looks like we're going to do that one too. Okie dokie.
Yeah.
Game 3.
Maybe Nicholas's thought is that my opponent is playing so patient that I want to bait this hook for the next hook to maybe answer something like Mickey Wayward Sorcerer. And so maybe, theoretically it's better to hold it, but my opponent's showing so much patience, I want to try and slip them up here. Mike, taking a think. I love pre-playing the whole turn.
All right. Big tapper. What you got? Here comes Hades. Going to blow up that Simba bodyguard. Puts it into the inkwell. And now Mickey going to go feasting. The 2/1/3 is likely going to eat the Captain Hook in tandem. A lot of good
Yeah.
board control here from Mike.
Yeah, this is definitely an interesting spot where Mike getting control of the board, kind of putting himself in a good position, but also, needs to make sure that he doesn't force Nicholas to a whole new world before he really wants to have it happen, right? And I almost wonder if there was anything else besides Hades, if we could have played it to maybe bait it and have it be for a stronger card. But Mike has some plans and is 2 in the tournament, so clearly has a lot of experience with this deck and ready to go.
All right. Nicholas here, thumbing a hand. It looks pretty decent. The whole new world is like a good baseline if he just feels like we just need to reset. But I see a blasting cannons, be our guest, another Rapunzel. We can put 3 damage on our own Rapunzel by attacking the Mickey for 1, and then we can heal 3 with Rapunzel and gain 3 more cards.
Yeah, I think that is going to be the play here because right now, we're in such a position where they're a little bit ahead on board, but this is a great way to sort of, hey, our opponent doesn't have a lot of lore. We can sort of dirtle around a little bit. They're not starting to quest. They're wanting to fight over the board, and I'll just go up 3 cards and figure it out from here. We might also see Nicholas try to do some whole new world decking action if the game goes long enough. Making your opponent draw 7 a bunch of times can sometimes do that if they have things like Detective Mickey, etc. So we'll see how this all plays out. Ooh, looks like they do have the shift hook in hand too. Are you a big Pirates of the Caribbean fan, Todd? Because you're about to fire some cannons.
I'm not personally. I've seen like the first 2 or 3 movies, like well over a decade ago or whenever they came out. I'm a big Legolas fan, Orlando Bloom. So here's Fire the Cannons and Mickey Mouse Wayward Sorcerer gonna go to the discard pile. The broom's no longer safe, and we're gonna use the rest of our characters to chew up the side of the board. And now Mike Wilson gonna be the one with a mostly empty board.
Yeah. And Mike, not super in love to be in this spot, but if has some strong cards like maybe Robin Hood here to, put some good pressure on the board and redraw, just needs to basically put the foot on the gas and keep slamming cards and force Nicholas to play a whole new world. And right now we haven't really gotten that sort of foot on the gas moment yet, but we might also have some card draw with being Amethyst in our deck, because we are going to develop the brain for a little card selection.
Yeah, we're gonna look at the top 2. I see. I thought an Ursula's Cauldron, not one you want to see at this stage in the game. That's usually pretty good early to make sure that your draw's kind of smoothed out. But since it doesn't replace itself, it's often negative card economy, and in this spot, you can't really afford that.
Yeah, you're really hoping that you're filtering your draws in such a way that it creates pseudo card advantage, right? You bottom enough cards that are kind of early game cards. It's sort of, you squint a little bit, fudges the math, you got a card out of it. But Mike really in the tank here. It looks like Fringe from the other side's the other one, which is a pretty strong card. Maybe that is just the Cauldron.
All right, Mike, in the tank here on this Develop Your Brain, these Amethyst decks often take a while to win. So the longer he takes on this Develop Your Brain, the less time he's going to have at the end of the round to finish. We're still in game number 1. We're about 14 minutes deep. These players don't even have 5 lore, so the pace of play is going to need to increase if they want to finish this match.
Yeah. And I think from Nicholas's perspective, they're in a pretty good spot to start questing aggressively soon. So I think Mike, the other card must just be something that attacks the board. Maybe it's like a Rafiki or something, and he's considering, okay, do I want this Rafiki over card advantage so that I can control the board and use Hades to maybe take down this hook? Because Nicholas is going to start questing for 6 lore, and that's only 3 turns before it gets away. So what to see here as some card was picked, I'm not exactly sure.
All right, it's probably going to come down this turn. We'll see. All right, we're going to tap 3. There comes the friends on the other side. We're going to draw 2.
Yeah, and that was the card in Mike's hand that he took. So it has a bunch more options now. 3 mana, or 3 ink. Yeah, I feel like it just hasn't quite come together for Mike here. We had all this mana, and we had to Hades down a Simba. So we really need to start putting the pressure here. So this turn that we're using to develop needs to really matter as we ink a queen.
All right, he has the ability to attack with the Hades. Can also use it to sing, let it go if he wants. Gonna go ahead and play Bell Strange but Special. We have 8 ink on the table, looks like. So 2 more ink from Bell, and we'll be able to start questing for 5. That card is extremely powerful as a finisher. Big burn spell almost. And Hades does challenge the Captain Hook Duelist.
Yeah, in a lot of matchups, your game plan is just to quest with a Bell twice, and that is enough. If you get 2 quests off, it's like, all right, 10 lore, I can figure it out from here.
Yeah, exactly. One of the first games I played against Sapphire, my opponent played a Bell on 4, ramped again. Next turn, they were able to play Hades, and then the turn after that, they played another Bell, and I was like, "How am I supposed to beat, gaining 10 lore at a time?"
It is really ridiculous. And if you're Nicholas, you're low-key freaking out because Mike's at 8 lore, could have played a second lore this turn, chose not to off Bell. So
Right.
those cards in hand are either really good or uninkable, and the uninkable cards are really good typically, as
All
Grab
right.
Your Sword is found.
Yeah, finds Grab Your Sword off of that aerial singer. Has multiple characters in play that can sing it for free. The 3/6 Hades here could get teamed up to kill with the Grab Your Sword and a couple of attacks. I'm not sure if that's what the play is going to be. Might want to just deploy some cheap characters and start questing a bit, getting some lore.
I like that Nicholas is thinking through everything before executing. Very important. Does have a be your guest as well to maybe find something. Probably better to use cards typically like be your guest once you're low on options, because then the games progress more and you know exactly what you're looking for. At this point, Nicholas isn't probably looking for any one particular card, so developing something like Aladdin would typically be better. But be your guest here finds Tinkerbell and Stitch Rockstar.
All right, we're gonna grab the Tinkerbell, this big giant, or sorry, the Tinkerbell Giant Fairy. One of the best cards you can have against an aggressive start from the opponents, but maybe not so good in this particular matchup, maybe or situation. But we'll see if he's able to leverage the 1 damage well over the next few turns. Gonna go ahead and play a Bodyguard tapped, and we're gonna go Questin for 4.
Yep. 5, right? So we'd be up to 8 there.
Oh, 5, excuse me. Yeah.
Yeah, you're good. There's one hiding out underneath there. But yeah, I mean, this is what you need to do as Nicholas. You have the cards. Mike is going to just dome you for a bunch here with the Tinkerbell in a second. Has a bunch of strong cards. We need to put Mike in a position where Mike has to be answering or force Mike to have sort of the perfect draw step. So it's a good play there, as it does look like maybe the players are confirming something with the Life Spotter about exactly what the lore is.
Yeah, earlier I saw Nicholas write down 4 when he only quested for 3, and I noted it to our director, so we're just making sure that it's all right. We're questing for 5 now, so we should be at 8, and
Yep.
so it should be 8-1.
Agreed. Yeah, if we just do what Nicholas had wrote down, then what you had said, we would end up in the same spot anyway, so it's all good.
All right, 8-1. Gonna go back Mike Wilson's way in just a moment.
Yep.
All right.
Okay. We're
Now we got that situated.
calling oopsie poopsie in the biz.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's gross.
No, it's just a little oopsie poopsie.
Well, you could just say a whoopsie. That's way cleaner.
What's a whoopsie?
Literally and figuratively. A whoopsie?
Yeah.
That's a whoopsie.
You
Like
hit that note pretty well.
I played a lot of Mortal Kombat when I was a kid.
Mm.
All right, here's a attack for 3 that's going to kill the Simba, and we're going to play an Ursula. We're going to drain 1, draw a card.
And this Ursula threatens a lot of lore. We talked about how Mike is very soon here about to represent a ton of damage. And, you know, we have 8 here with the ability to play 2 off Bell, and we could maybe just 5 Nicholas.
Yeah, it's not really the spot you want to be in, though, because it's going to die immediately, right? But maybe not.
Yeah, it looks like Mike going to just control the board a little bit.
Yeah, going to challenge the aerial instead.
Maybe. Well, they have grabbed the sword and Big Tinkerbell. So,
That's true. That's true. So we're gonna have a big clear this turn, huh?
yeah, I mean, the Hades is going to die. Assuming we do Sing Grab Your Sword, play Tinkerbell, everything but Ursula is going to die. We're going to quest for 4, go to 11, and we're in a pretty good spot because we have all those cards in hand, even if you don't know what they are. And we know they're all pretty good.
All right, so grab your sword. Going to deal 2 to the Bell, Strange but Special, 2 to the Hades, and then 6 cost Tinkerbell going to come down, and that is going to deal some damage. That Ursula should have 2 more damage on it from the grab your sword, Mr. Director. Make sure we get that settled in just a minute. If we can.
Yep. Yeah, Ursula got 3 willpower knocked on her. Luckily, Ursula, 2-8. Massive stat line. There they go.
All right, cool. As long as we fix it before a bunch of stuff happens, that's good. One of the cool things about Lorcana, Magic players probably hate this, but when it's your turn, your opponent doesn't do anything. They sometimes have like triggered abilities, but oftentimes they don't have decisions on your turn, which means that you can kind of just make all of your decisions that you're going to make for the turn in whatever order you want. And sometimes, though, that can be hard to rewind, but in this game, it's not so hard.
Yep. We're seeing Nicholas here doing a good job of controlling the board and getting lore up, which has been a deadly combination so far. These Rapunzels did a really, really strong job of just being a bunch of lore and being a threat as Jasmine gets played.
All right, so Jasmine, this is going to come down. It's going to heal some damage from the Ursula. And then it's going to Sing, Let It Go, and Big Tinkerbell going to go to the Inkwell. And now Mike Wilson, just 1 card left in hand. Ursula versus some princesses on the other side. We got 2 copies of Rapunzel and Ariel. Spectacular Singer. We'll see what Nicholas Roush wants to add to the table, but already has 5 lore up to 16 at the ready if that's what he wants to do.
Yeah, Mike, like I mentioned before, deck really good at punishing a whole new world, but Mike has not done a good job of putting Nicholas under any pressure. So Nicholas has just gotten to nickel and dime with these Rapunzels, getting 2 lore, 2 lore, 2 lore. Now this whole new world's never going to come down, and it went from a dead draw to sort of, oh, it doesn't really matter, and I can actually do that and maybe checkmate you. As you know, going up to 16 lore here means we have to answer both Rapunzels, and they're 1/5s, Todd.
Yeah, 5 willpower is extremely difficult for low strength characters to interact with. Mike Wilson under the gun.
We have Stitch Rockstar too?
Yeah, this is bad. Didn't have a 1 or 2 drop to play to capitalize on it. Handful of Big Tinkerbell, Smash, Whole New World. A common problem I see in these builds, but it looks like he has more than enough resources to get over the finish line here. And Mike Wilson likely going to be down a game and with his back against the wall on time because these players have just been playing at a glacial pace. It's possible that they don't even get to finish a game 3.
Yeah, I think Mike Wilson needs to pick it up. Unless you have in hand like Hades, Let It Go, and you can just like pick the things apart. But even then, if you do what I just talked about, your opponent still has you in a position where they're going to put you in check at 18 lore on the next turn. And that is going to be really hard to stop unless you just draw perfect and they never draw anything that quests ever again. So it might just be best to move on with our day here and try and win game number 2 and 3.
All right, well, here's a Maleficent. We're going to draw a card. We're going to ink. We're going to play Hades. That's going to banish the Stitch Rockstar. And can we deal with one of these Rapunzels to not die? That's 2, 4. Looks like only 4 damage, so not even quite enough. So these Rapunzels are threatening lethal, and Mike Wilson going to pack it in. Game number 1 goes to Nicholas Roush.
Yeah, it seems like Mike forgot that Rapunzel was a 1/5 instead of a 1/4, and so is making plays that turn to try and give themselves a 1-outer. But, unfortunately, not the situation, and might come back to bite them if we do not, have a lightning fast game number 2 here from these players. But I think the matchup's just going to go a little bit slower unless we see a bunch of one jump ahead Grandma Tallies, Detective Mickeys from the early turn.
Yeah, I mean, look, you can finish games pretty quickly in Lorcana as long as you physically play the game quickly. You can play the first 5 turns within 30 seconds if both players know what they're doing and they're just aware of how the engine interacts. But this is a brand new game. Okay, these players are likely playing some of these cards for the very first time. They're likely playing against some of these opposing cards for the very first time. It takes a lot, to really understand every single card in a game. With that said, we have asked Mike to play a little bit faster. We do expect these players to play at such a pace where they can finish 3 games in 50 minutes. This is a newer tournament guidelines that we're going off of, so we're kind of just working with what we got. But here we're going to step in for game number 2. Mike Wilson's going to be on the play with that Amethyst Sapphire deck, and we'll see if he can play this game in quickly enough to finish a 3-game set.
Well, say this, Mike's drawing 6 new cards. So if Mike has any mulligan heuristics like I do with my Sapphire decks, it's I keep ramp spells and put everything else back. If it doesn't give me an extra ink, I don't want it in the early turns.
Nice. I like that. Now, both players are going to be shuffling here after they put cards on the bottom. This is the mulligan rules for Disney's Lorcana. I'm going to lobby for them to remove that, though. I think just putting the cards on the bottom is good enough. We already do that in Magic, and there's like very little shuffling in some of the formats, and it just doesn't matter. And it just adds like an extra 30 seconds to each game for basically no reason, in my opinion. But
I think there's a reason, but I think we just disagree. As
that's
we are
fine.
going to see, yeah.
Look, putting your bomber on the bottom and only having one of it does feel bad. I'm not going to argue with you on that. That's definitely the case. But adding a minute of time to every single round of shuffling that is like after shuffling, drawing 7, mulliganing, shuffling again just feels very, very backwards to me.
Fair enough.
All right. 1 drop here from Nicholas Roush. We start with a Stitch, new dog. We're going to go back Mike Wilson's way and see if he has a 2-drop that can match. Going to ink Wayward Sorcerer. And here's Grammatala. Doesn't challenge on its own, but if it does get banished, it does go to the Inkwell, so it's a little bit of a ramp effect. Very similar to Sakura Tribe Elder for those Magic players out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sort of a slow 1 jump ahead for blue, but gives you some redundancy, right? If you have like a couple Grandma Tallies and a bunch of 1 jump aheads, your turn 4 and 5 are pretty often very strong, and it doesn't take that much work. So there aren't a ton of actual 4 drops that you want to play with 1 jump ahead besides Bell. As Simba is going to get bodyguarded, it seems. Looks like Nicholas maybe not used to playing against Sapphire Amethyst as well, which is adding to this, like we mentioned before, an unusual color combination. So that's going to add a little bit to the, pace of play where we need to double check a couple things like, wait, is there something that could punish me here? That kind of thought does come up a lot in players' heads.
Yeah, unfortunately, the support mechanic only works when the character quests. And so, like a Philosades here, for example, doesn't allow Grammatala to trade up. But that's why cards like Megara out of Emerald are so good. But here's another ramp effect. Mickey Mouse Detective gonna put Mike all the way up to 5, and we're just on turn number 3. So next turn has access to a potential 6-cost spell 2 turns ahead of schedule.
Yeah, something like Robin Hood here would be huge. You're playing all these cards, you're also low-handed, so getting a redraw,
Right.
Very nice. We're also setting up, maybe for something like a Dr. Facilier or any other big Amethyst cards that you want to play along with all this extra ink.
All right, we're going to quest for 2. Nicholas Roush up to 3 lore, and looks like a grip full of the goods. See what he wants to deploy here.
Looks like a little bit of, like what is going to be coming down here? What do I want to play around? And looks like another Stitch. That's all we got.
Yeah, not the best follow-up there for the turn 2 Simba Bodyguard, but another 1-drop is still another 1-drop. You can see Nicholas Roush actually has Blasting Cannons in hand. This is a card you often don't see in Steel decks because it's not inkable, and it doesn't pair well with the engine card Stitch Rockstar. You want most of your cards that are interactive to be character-driven, like Prince Eric and Captain Hook Forceful Duelist, because they refresh themselves when you have a Stitch Rockstar on the table already.
Yeah, and Mike here taking a huge risk here. We got to clear this Simba because these Stitches and stuff could become a problem. But if Rapunzel comes off the top for Nicholas, we're going to get a huge sort of swing there. As Jasmine, not quite Rapunzel, but does heal too.
Yeah, and the Mickey Mouse going to reset its willpower here. And Jasmine, a reasonable body herself. Just a nice card here for Mike Wilson, but will it be enough? Here is a shift Stitch Rockstar comes down onto one of the Stitch loyal dogs or new dogs, and we'll see if Mike Wilson has a way to take it off the field.
Would you say Stitch has that dog in him?
I would not.
Yeah, me neither. That'd be really cringe. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It is interesting, right? From a gameplay perspective, do you want to attack down the Detective Mickey and then just quest with your other 2 cards? That Bodyguard Simba will protect your Stitch. Obviously, your Stitch takes 1 here, but Mickey Mouse is looking to just answer the Simba at some point. Anyways, besides that, also generating a little bit of lore could matter. So it's definitely a close spot here, and a lot of thinking ahead is going to need to happen because next turn, Mike has Hades, and we saw Mike plays 4 Hades, 4 Let It Goes, right? They was just slamming those in game number 1. So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out here.
Yeah, I'm in favor of just questing. 3 is a ton for this deck, and using that to eat a Mickey Mouse. I think the Mickey Mouse, picking off the Simba next turn, it obviously has repercussions later down the line. But no matter how you go about this turn, if you quest at all with Simba, it's going to die because either the Jasmine's going to kill it or the Mickey Mouse is going to kill it. And I just think that you're much better off just getting 3 lore off the Simba. Now, I wouldn't mind maybe both of the smaller characters. No, never mind. I changed my mind.
Yeah, I don't hate just this if you're trying to play towards Rapunzel. I do think I like where you're at more and what you're saying about just sort of doing it. But I do think that I would understand where Nicholas is coming from here with, maybe my hand isn't exactly what I want. I need a card like Rapunzel. They're just going to kill Stitch, so it's never going to do the thing. And yeah, this is why killing cards like Mickey matters so much. A friend from the other side, Mickey is just getting to give you 3 more ink in a deck that is very ink heavy and needs all the ink to function. So
yeah, there's a lot of good utility 3-drops in the game, and they are almost all used to sing Friends on the Other Side. But here comes the 7-drop Hades. It's going to put 2 different Stitches into the inkwell. When you shift, both cards are still technically on the table. So when Hades does banish it to the inkwell, it gets both. So a big ramp effect for Nicholas Roush now. We'll see if he can leverage that extra ink.
yeah, we drew the Rapunzel, so not using the Simba is going to pay off there, but I can't help but think we needed to attack down that Mickey last turn. But we'll see how it plays out as we draw 2.
I don't know why Jasmine didn't eat Simba.
Simba
Mickey...
didn't do anything.
Oh, right. It was not vulnerable. Good call.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Played towards our out of Rapunzel and then drew our out. So
yeah, Rapunzel, a pretty nice one.
Mm-hmm.
All right, handful of cards now after the Rapunzel refresh 2. I see 2-cost Aladdin that quests for 2. Relatively weak stats. It's a 2/1/2, but not very many 2-cost cards quest for 2 lore. So Aladdin somewhat desirable in a deck that plays Stitch Rockstar.
Mm-hmm. Nicholas is really feeling it too because Mike has so many cards in hand. It'd be one thing if this was the board and Mike was out of cards in hand, right? If just we're on top deck mode, then okay, we can start to pull it together. It might be really easy. Here it's like, well, what do I do? These cards are all so big, and I do have these, deal 2s and Tinkerbells, but I don't know. The grab your swords are going to need to like line up really well if we're going to win here.
Yeah, there's a lot of punishes from Nicholas Roush's side for entering in combat, but you usually want to enter into combat on your own terms, so it's a lot more controllable. So you can do like 2 here, 1 here, and then use your grab your sword to clean up more than one character at a time.
Yep. As we just see Mike play the Queen, which is a nice, and Magic Mirror. So you're seeing some of the advantages of being a Sapphire Amethyst deck, right? You have all this ink all the time, and you have it early, so we get to really do a lot of stuff that Ruby Amethyst does. But, you just don't have as many mass answers to creatures.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and quest for 2, 4, 5. Mike Wilson going to go up to, I believe, 7 lore. And we're going to go back Nicholas Roush's way. And he's got some uphill battling to do, but a board full of characters. Let's see if he can punish. Grab your sword's a nice one here.
Yeah, we also just drew a Rapunzel, so no matter what, we could set up Rapunzel, attack Hades, play Rapunzel, draw 3. I don't know if we actually want to draw 3 right now. We might want to use our mana in a more efficient way, but that is on the table and something Nicholas has to consider.
All right, taps 5. We're going to play Grab Your Sword. deals 2 to everything on the opponent's side of the table, but nothing is dead just yet. I imagine we'll be able to do some trading.
Yeah, and let's see how Nicholas wants to go about this. We do have a Fire the Cannons and a Lilo in hand. So we might be able to, use this Fire the Cannons and our Aladdin and Stitch take down Hades, Simba to clear out the Jasmine, and then have, Rapunzel hit down Mickey. And then it's just the Queen versus, but Mike does have the ability to draw 3 cards next turn if he wants it. So Nicholas needs to make sure to navigate this turn perfectly. As you see the head nod, he's like, all right, I figured it out. Time to start attacking. This is also what you were talking about too, right? You can play a turn quickly. Once you know everything, your opponent doesn't have to confirm anything with you. It just happens. So you get to kind of plan your whole turn. And if you're pretty efficient at doing that, which is something you should be doing in all card games, sort of thinking through your turn, executing, it pays off in spades in this game.
Right. All right, back Mike Wilson's way after a big old board clear. The grab your sword plus blasting cannons plus a big attack, and now Mike Wilson left with just the queen and a magic mirror, but a great place to be in an attrition battle. You have multiple ways to refresh. We'll see if he has any way to help clean up Nicholas Roush's side of the board before that Rapunzel number 2 comes down and gives them a few more cards. All right, up to 8 ink. See what we can do.
It is interesting too from Mike's side. Will he play around second Rapunzel and have his queen kill the Rapunzel? Nicholas has drawn a fair number of cards, and that's such a huge way for him to get back.
Sorry, has to attack the bodyguard instead. Unfortunately for Mike, we'll see if he has a way to clear the Rapunzel here. No, just Mickey Mouse, Wayward Sorcerer. And now we're back Nicholas's way. That Rapunzel is going to give him some extra help here.
And it's funny too, Nicholas has only inked 4 cards this game. It's playing off 6 ink because Mike inked the Stitch Rockstar. And so that's part of why Nicholas has so many resources. If you're watching, you're like, how's this happening? Rapunzel plus your opponent giving you 2 more ink really changes the dynamic of the game.
Yeah, if you want to know why Dragonfire is not inkable, but Let It Go is inkable, is because of stuff like that. It comes with a significant drawback, putting your opponent's characters into their inkwell.
Yeah, I mean, I think it really shows how strong they thought Let It Go was, that it's both inkable and singable. Like, obviously, the name Let It Go makes you do a sing, but you could have named it differently, right? So they thought that card had some serious drawbacks, so they were going to let you do that sort of thing.
All right, we're going to quest for 2, draw some cards, trade off with the queen, and play 2 1-cost Lilos, the quest for 2. Nicholas Roush firmly in the driver's seat. We'll see if Mike Wilson can come back. We have a lot of access to ink and a few extra cards with Magic Mirror, but the queen is now gone.
I wonder if Mike has the stopwatch as a way to maybe, haste up something like a Hades and have it clear 2 things.
Yeah, White Rabbit's Pocket Watch is quite powerful in the Amethyst decks, giving you the ability to rush down your opponent's characters with things that wouldn't normally have rush. It's quite brutal with Aladdin Heroic Outlaw in the Ruby Amethyst control deck, but this Ruby Sapphire deck maybe doesn't use it as well.
Yep. And this is also one of the big differences. Mike's deck has been less of like a traditional ramp deck and more of a controlling deck with the ability to put some big bodies on board. And we're noticing the difference between having mass answers versus not, right? Nicholas here has these Lilos, which are representing to give him 4 lore and could put him at 15 this turn, which is really, really close to just winning the game, and would force Mike's hand to answer those cards instead of the Rapunzel. So this go wide plan is very effective against Sapphire Amethyst.
Yeah, I like this. So we're going to go up to 15 lore, and we're going to play Stitch Rockstar, and we kind of got you coming and going, right? If you go after my characters that are questing, I'm going to get to untap with Stitch Rockstar. If you ignore them, you're straight up dead. And if you kill Stitch Rockstar, well, I got enough lore on the table where I might be able to quest you out next turn.
Yeah, we need Hades or Let It Go this turn. And if we do that and attack down the Lilos, our opponent still goes to 19, so we have to beat every single creature for the rest of the game. And just like game 1, Rapunzels are 1/5s. It's just really hard for Mike's deck with low strength cards to attack in. And we mentioned this earlier, why we love high willpower. It's because things like this, they need to be able to stick around and do stuff, and it causes real problems.
Yeah, unfortunately for Mike, just not drawing any copies of Philocades early in the game to allow some of his smaller characters to trade. But here we do have an answer for the Stitch Rockstar. That's Let It Go, putting it into the inkwell. But these two Rapunzels are going to be putting Mike up to Nick up to 19 next turn. So going to need to clear everything for the rest of the game in order to not be dead.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, drawing is smash there. I think we still have that fire the cannon. That might actually just be game because we can just clear out the Mickey and then we can't kill the Rapunzels. Now, I might have missed all the hand, but we definitely have a smash. So that will clear the Mickey.
All right, Nick going through some math here, trying to figure out exactly how he can lose because he's very firmly in the driver's seat. It's his game to lose. This is Captain Hook having happy thoughts, so he's flying. And we're going to play Be Our Guest as Ink and smash on something. Looks like Mickey Mouse going down. And here we're going to quest for 4. Goes Roush up to 19. Mike Wilson on the back foot. Door's about to close. What do you got?
Mike, this magic mirror has to pay off, and we have to have the right card. Develop your brain. All right, and a relook for only 1 ink. But not looking like the face of someone who's happy. And yeah,
Mike
Nick is going to move on to 3-0.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
3-0 is a great start. This is